Hey everyone, it's Kristin from the Kristin Chronicles Journey. Been doing a lot of reflection on the past and how it got me to this point in life. The good and the bad that has carried me through and hindered my journey along the way. My parents have done some great things, but nobody's perfect and everyone makes mistakes, especially in parenting, because every child is different and what's a proper response in one situation for one child won't be the same in the next. And it makes things very tricky. And I understand that. I've worked very hard to grow grace for my parents, doing my best to understand what it might have been like from their end of things. Unfortunately, that does not change my experiences, including the pretty crummy ones, a lot of which they contributed to, maybe without knowing. One of the biggest mistakes my parents have made, and I say this not to rag on them for mistakes made in the past, but to use it as a teaching moment for people who might find themselves in a similar situation, and even for my parents in hopes that they might recognize this and choose a different response in the future for similar situations. My parents' biggest mistake was making assumptions and basing their life truth on those assumptions, rather than recognizing that there could be flaws or inaccuracy within them. My parents assumed that I was cutting, self-harming for attention. My parents assumed that every single thing I did in high school that did not align with what they told me to do was only to insult them and hurt them and make them look bad and to disrespect them and rebel against them. They genuinely did not believe me when I said something is wrong and I'm not okay. They completely ignored years of cries for help and went with the assumption that I was acting out just because I didn't like them. And that is just incredibly self-absorbed to think that someone would go out of their way doing these reckless things for years just to piss off a couple people. That's pretty absurd. And I felt extremely insulted when I was told that this is what they thought when they explained their perspective to me. It's very insulting to say, your pain's not real, all the bad stuff you're going through is just because we're these amazing parents that you can't stand. Like, that's some pretty arrogant stuff right there. And because they went with that assumption, they have invalidated and disrespected me for the past 12 years without even realizing that that's what they're doing. Also, because of these assumptions, they completely ignored my decade of cries for help. Rather than seeking proper assistance for my struggles and my pain, they grounded me, restricting access to my friends, which were the only support I had at the time. I challenge you. What assumptions have you made about your loved ones? What assumptions do you make about mental health that may not fully be true? I challenge you to evaluate these things. I force myself to do this on a consistent basis, at least once a week, looking at the truths that I hold so strongly to, looking at the way I respond to people, and questioning if it really is the proper response and if I really am fully aware of the bigger truth and not just the truth that I am experiencing. I challenge you to evaluate these assumptions today. Assumptions are not going to get us anywhere. It's time to start a conversation that matters. It's time to speak up about things even if they make us uncomfortable. It's time for us to celebrate our vulnerability by sharing it.